YouTuber privilege strikes again. I got into Curse Gear, and today I want to give you guys a review on what I consider to be a weird hybrid of Jujutsu Kaisen, Nier Automata, and D&D, and many other anime which I'll cover later. Anyway, two things before we get into it. First of all, I'm not streaming today since I've got people over re-insulating my walls, so right now I am holding my standless microphone talking into it like a radio show, and I'm gonna edit this video on a fucking laptop. And also, there's a free song cover by me at the end of this video for you guys to enjoy, so enjoy that after it comes up, and let's get straight into it. Alright, so first of all, this game is just not made for deep woken players, and it's going to be part of the reason why a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me watching some of the footage, but I am a Rogue Lineage player, and I have Stockholm Syndrome for bullshit. This video is still PG-13, by the way, but I absolutely love when game progressions are grueling, and I'll talk a bit more about that later, because I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me, but some of you guys are like jobless 15-year-olds complaining that you have to progress a lot in a game. It's like, come on, get real. Anyway, I think it is very apparent for anyone who's played Rogue Lineage, but this definitely isn't being made for Deep Woken players. The game's fighting mechanics are more resemblant of Rogue Lineage than Deep Woken, but it's kind of a hybrid between the two as far as like combat goes, and it is a bit weird to explain. If you played Sorcery, it's kind of like Sorcery combat, because for those of you who don't know, Sorcery ripped their base combat mechanics from this game, and then it has the same Cursed Energy dodge mechanic as Sorcery, but it is more nuanced than Sorcery. It's mostly semi-stun combat like in Rogue Lineage, with some moves that can confirm into others depending on combo interactions, and then it has parrying, which is not like Deep Woken parrying, which first of all, it's two inputs like testing Deep Woken is, but the window is also tighter and it can guard break people who have high posture, so going for parries in this game is harder, but it's very rewarding when you get them. And I do actually like the combat, even though I kinda suck at it for now. It addresses both the problems that Rogue Lineage and Deep Woken had in their combat, and it shows that Ragusa is at least working and improving based on past mistakes of things that he didn't like in both games. Rogue Lineage combat had the problem of macros and insta-kill combos, and then Deep Woken had two problems. Pre-verse 2, infinite parry trades and fights would last way too long, and then post-verse 2, you'd have mantra feint 50-50s on shaky block, which is still a problem. For those of you who don't know, if you're in shaky block and your opponent uses the mantra, you both have two input options which are entirely prediction based at this point. Your opponent can either feint or not feint his mantra, and you can either parry or ignore his first mantra cast. The reason why it's a 50-50 is because if you guess wrong and he does the input you don't want him to do, it's a free hit for your opponent, and it can just chain into more 50-50s, and this is just kinda lame. Depends on the mantras and the attunement people are using, some are better at it, but every mantra and every attunement can do it to a certain degree. Curse Gear has true combos, but they're not nearly as bad as Rogue Lineage, where you get hit by an M1 and then your opponent presses his mouse button and you lose 3 lives and 9,000 HP instantly. And the only combos in this game that are true are meant to be true as like strings that you can land extra as like a little bonus if you hit certain prerequisites mid-combat, which they take more effort to land than basic landable hits do. And I still suck, so we'll see how much I enjoy it over time, but I am having quite a bit of fun. Anyway, the last two major mechanics in the base combat are Black Flash and True Black Flash, but the devs call the normal Black Flash just a flash, like a Cursed Energy flash, and then the True Black Flash, which is just Black Flash, right? So by pressing E to flare Cursed Energy right before hitting someone, you get a flash. And then there's a small chance that flash is a True Black Flash, which heals you and gives you back Cursed Energy and buffs your output and stuff like that in the anime. But there are a few ways to guarantee a real Black Flash, one of them being the Itadori clan, which has a passive that builds up stacks, and then on max stacks, your next flash is a Black Flash guaranteed, which although there is an RNG for curse techniques and stuff, you're gonna need to buy clan rerolls if you want a good clan, but I think you can earn them rarely in expeditions while progressing. I'm not sure about that. If you're a tester or something, correct me down in the comments below. Anyway, as for progression, you gotta do expeditions in a party. You can do it solo, but it's not really recommended because some enemies will just murder you. The expeditions are pretty cool, but one of the things people just keep forgetting to mention, like even Agamatsu forgot to mention in his 2 directs, is that when you go on an expedition, you'll actually need to memorize map locations in this game. Because when you go on an expedition, you'll start in one of like 10 different locations, and then you complete some random quest stuff like finding veils and destroying them, killing spirits, killing traitor sorcerers, solving riddles, and finding loot caches. From there, you need to go through loading zones into different maps to reach your extraction point, and you can loot stuff and do side jobs from all the other places you expedite to, and you basically need to travel between like 4 different map zones just to do your final objective and extract. So a full mission expedition will be like 20 minutes, or at least that's how long it took me and my friend to do it, in just like 2s. But yes, the routes are always the same, and you need to know which way to go to reach your final extraction zone. From there, you get to extract with cybernetics, shards, and items you find. And every time you go through a loading zone, the D&D mechanics of this game come out. You will usually have a random event happen, and you and your party vote on what to do, and then you might get buffs, you might get debuffs, some people might get buffs, some people might get debuffs, some people might just get items, and some of the events even put you against each other. Like the one where me and my friend had to decide who got no food, and then we voted and it defaulted to me, and I got a stamina debuff for the rest of the expedition. And I think these roles work based on your character stats, like D&D, which is pretty fun. And as far as PvE goes, I am a weak little bitch, but the brutes specifically have an insta-killing attack that just kills you. Like, it just instantly kills you and fails the mission. And it has the worst hitbox I've ever seen. I'll get grabbed up from 20 feet away, and they'll just crush my head and insta-kill me. Like, your health bar will stay at the very top, and you'll just fail the mission, because it's literally just coded to insta-kill you. It doesn't do a lot of damage, it just straight up kills you. And then, on your missions, you might get raided by rivaling sorcerers who can invade you, and I'm not sure there's a level or strength cap to it, but my dumbass went into an invasion by accident and ended up fighting some guy with a cursed technique before I even got mine. And speaking of cursed techniques, there are close to 90. And you guys may be thinking how they managed to make my 90 cursed techniques, right? Well, many of them are from other sources of media adapted into cursed techniques. I've seen the Balance Shrift from Bleach, I've seen Zenitsu's Thunder Breathing style from Demon Slayer, and more. But of course, the 90-ish cursed techniques in game, they do in fact have most of the ones from, you know, the anime and manga. And to acquire one, you need to find shards. You find shards in loot caches, and then if you get 3 cursed technique shards, you fuse them into a cursed technique orb, I guess. And then you use it and you get that technique. And I'm sure there's even more references than the ones I've seen, but cursed techniques aren't the only way to progress your character in this game, as it is only partially based on JJK, which leads me into the other 2 things this game reminds me of, but I'll get into the world and stuff in a second after talking about the final bit of progression, or well, the final bits of progression, right? The grade examinations. CC game bullshit, but at the spawn there is a board which tells you when grade examinations are, and you need to be on the game at that time to be approved for a higher grade as a sorcerer. I'm gonna be grade 5 forever, because the hours for this are during my normal working hours. Anyway, back to the referential stuff in the world of cursed gear. The world is based on Jujutsu Kaisen, but the other half of it is Nier Automata, which I know nothing about, but it reminds me of Cyberpunk with all the futuristic stuff and the cybernetic implants and stuff, but also apparently Nier is partially based off the original 80s Cyberpunk stuff, so close enough. And the Nier stuff, other than being a bigger part of the actual world as far as design and structure goes than JJK, because a lot of the stuff in the outer areas and expedition areas is futuristic stuff based on the post-apocalyptic wasteland that is, I guess, supposed to be the Nier world, which very heavily contrasts with literally just Tokyo. I kind of wish there was more cohesion with the maps, because some of them are like, yeah, I'm in a desert wasteland, and then I'm in Tokyo, and it's like, really? We couldn't get like cyberpunky Tokyo? I feel like making it more cyberpunk would have been better anyway. Anyway, the cybernetics are part of your build as well. You have a cybernetic capacity, similarly to Cyberpunk 2077 if you've ever played it, where cybernetics increases your cyber load or whatever, and then they give you different passives and stat buffs, and then some of the cybernetics called augments change out certain class moves with cybernetic ones, and your class is technically considered like an operating system. So it changes up your moveset, allowing for more variety and allowing for there to be different movesets between classes, which Rogue Lineage didn't really have outside of artifacts and like snap spells, which honestly didn't really provide variety when everyone ran Snap Gelatis and every class had certain best artifacts. So this actually provides good variety. Now I'm sure most of you are wondering about domains. If you've played Rogue Lineage, the best way to equate domains are probably something like Soul Sword pre-update Ultimate. Like 90% of people probably won't touch a domain, and that's just something said by like the devs and testers. Most of you guys watching this right now will probably not get a domain unless they nerf the requirements. But the problem is I don't even know how to get it yet, but I'm assuming it's kind of just like bullshit CC progression, where it's like super hard and maybe grindy, not entirely sure yet. I'm sure it'll get leaked a week after release anyway, but right now only Raguzer and I think Archmage have domains, and the other developers don't even really have them unlocked yet, which is really interesting, and I'll get back into it in a second. Anyway, this game is very much made for Rogue Lineage players. Like, if you like Deep Woken and you haven't played Rogue Lineage, I'm not sure if you'll like this. But if you like Rogue Lineage, you'll definitely like this. They brought back the trinket system from Rogue Lineage, except it's not as garbage because the trinkets you find are actually worth something in comparison to how much stuff costs, versus in Rogue Lineage where the most expensive trinket, even after the buffs, were like 7 silver, and you'd find 20 trinket spawns running the entire map, and most of them are still worth like 3 silver, and every skill is 350 silver. And back then, before Update Ultimate, the skills were 500, and the most expensive trinket was 5, and everything was worth 2 to 5. Look, items in this game are like 100 on the higher end for certain weapons, and then food food costs like 5. Anyway, the economy, they obviously learned from how bad Rogue Lineages was with silver and stuff, which is why they added blacksmith to Rogue Lineage, but like, I don't want to make a blacksmith to get silver. But yeah, this game has a lot to do with Rogue Lineage as far as niche references and stuff goes, which really show you that this was made for Rogue Lineage players. Like Mick Haas, which is a reference to Big Haas from Rogue Lineage, and how his favorite food is the McChicken. I don't know why. And this entire game feels a bit Rogue Lineage tribute-y, just like if you played it, you'd understand. But I'd expect nothing less from my goat Par. Yeah, I bet you guys thought there'd be no Par glaze in this video. I'm glazing Par every chance I get. I'd pour honey on my goat if the occasion called for it. That's Par. Anyway, it's done talking about the game itself. Let's go over what I like and don't like. First of all, the map is a bit weird. It has that Roblox aesthetic of bad proportions where the map is like 30 times bigger than you are, and it kind of just breaks my immersion a little bit. Honestly, I know it doesn't really matter, but I've never really liked when games did that, but that's really just a me problem. I also hate those stupid ass brute curse enemies. Their big broken hitboxes and their weird moves just make them dumb to fight, in contrast with like all the other curse enemies, which are just super brain dead easy to fight and have like no health, and you'll two-shot most of them even at grade 5, like when you first start playing. And it's just like the PvE has a weird disparity to it where you either one-shot every enemy or you get one-shot by every other enemy until you've progressed to a certain point. And it really sucks when you're progressing at early stages and you're forced to fight these stronger enemies because you end up getting like a boss curse on your mission and you can't complete that mission anymore because you literally can't fight that thing or else you will get one-shot. Then there's also the stupid timed exam system. I get it's a CC game, so there's always supposed to be close community features meant to keep the community like tighter knit, but bro, I have a job, man. I have a job, man. I don't got that much time to be going to grade examinations, but more than likely they'll replace it for full release like every CC game does with their CC events once the game goes public, so it's really not that big of an issue. Now, one more thing that most people might complain about or might not like that I actually do is kind of the grind aspect, right? Like getting domain and reverse curse technique is actually supposed to be hard and time consuming, kind of like in the actual verse of JJK. I get a lot of people hate that stuff, but get real. So many people bitch about grindy progression like they weren't going to spend 200 hours in the game doing nothing but ganking anyway. People did the same thing with Type Soul when Bankai was 175 raids, but I got that done in 3 days, and I have a full-time job, I make my videos, I have so much stuff to do, and I got that done in 3 days, okay? Like half of you guys are like unemployed high school students, and you're complaining about how you have to do 170 raids, and it's like, dude, you could just farm them properly, and you'll get them done pretty quickly. Like, I get when some people who are the outlier and have jobs and stuff complain about it, but 90% of you complaining about it are like 16, you don't work, and you're gonna put 2,000 hours into this game like you did with Deep Woken and Rogue Lineage anyway. Look, I like when game progressions are a little bit grueling, because then the cool shit is at least a little bit rare. Like, modes in Type Soul were only cool when not everyone had them, but then they nerfed it to the point where the most garbage player you've ever seen would pop their Bankai because you pressed M1 on them. And given the fact that these are Rogue Lineage devs, and this game is free, I better not see no progression nerfs. Soul and Sword was 400 rots pre-update Ultimate, and nobody complained about it. Silver was its own just terrible progression system, and yeah, people complained about it, but people still dealt with it. I want the new gens hopping on Curse Gear to know my pain. You ever try to get an Azael with 2 Rift Gems? No, I don't think so. You ever try and get an Azael Horn in K post-update Ultimate? No, I don't think so. I don't want to see bad players popping domain, okay? Now, other than all that, this game does in fact lack endgame content. I've been glazing a bit because, you know, I've got some recency bias flowing through my bloodstream, but I do think it needs to have more stuff for the endgame content. But then again, I guess that's what like domain and RCT are for, and I still don't have those, so maybe I'm just wrong here. Along with that, I feel like outfits should matter more. They're purely cosmetic, which some people might like, but then just add vanity settings. I'd prefer if outfits just contributed to builds so people would be less likely to auto-sell them. And also it would mean that they're worth getting because I pull an outfit from every cache and I just turn it into 6 time, which time is the money, and it's just not really worth it, right? Other than that, yeah, the game really just needs more content. I do like all the Rogue Lineage influence though. I've always liked Rogue's combat more than Deep Woken's, but I always hated macros, and this game is doing alright so far. I don't think people are really macroing on this. It just needs more stuff, which, I mean, obviously they're gonna work on that over time, right? I honestly don't like the anime curse techniques though, but it's not that serious. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Here's the free song cover for you guys. If you like it, maybe buy a YouTube membership to hear the rest of my song covers, because I drop 1 a month, which is actually going to be, yeah, I'm actually just going to be dropping 2 this month, including this one. So, you know, it's $5 minimum, but regardless, hope you guys enjoy.
Somewhere beyond the moon, somewhere beyond the moon, somewhere beyond the moon, so high, so high, so high. Let me run away, no word to ground control, 'cause I wanna stay somewhere higher than the moon. On the day I'm beyond the moon. Psychedelic satellite, hop aboard and take a flight. I wanna stay somewhere higher than the moon. Somewhere beyond the moon. Somewhere beyond the moon. Somewhere beyond the moon. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. The moon, the moon, the moon. I'm past the atmosphere, well on my way to Mars. Let me disappear somewhere higher than the moon. I'm aboard the rocket ship, up a pill and take a trip. And don't you wanna play somewhere higher than the moon? Somewhere beyond the moon, so high. Somewhere beyond the moon, so high. Somewhere beyond the moon, so goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. On the day I'm heaven bound, I ain't ever coming down. I wanna stay faster than light, taking a flight somewhere beyond the moon. Somewhere beyond the moon. Somewhere beyond the moon. So high, so high, so high.
Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Make sure to subscribe and check out the live channel. I just uploaded a video on Ultra Kill Layer 8. That's the new one. Oh, I'm stretching. And if you enjoyed the song, buy a YouTube membership to hear more. I drop one a month. And I'll be dropping a Christmas album this year, which will be like 10 songs for Christmas. And if you want a shout out, buy tier 2 or higher. So shout out to you to members of tier 2 or higher. Green, Philip, Delusional Mo, Elstern, Fun Guns, Broccoli, Carlia the Witch, Tonka Jahari, Highcard, IXKMB, Goobka, welcome back, and Drizzy Drake fan. I love you all, have an amazing day, and goodbye.